Grand Theft Auto 6 is the most anticipated game ever made, and that might be its biggest problem. The last one has sold more than 220 million copies. The second trailer pulled 475 million views in a single day, the biggest video launch anyone had ever seen. But when a game gets this big, the one thing it cannot do is disappoint. So here are the things it actually has to get right, and the one Rockstar has already gotten wrong before. Start with the scale, because the scale is the whole problem. It's been more than a decade since the last one came out, long enough that a kid who was 10 at that launch can legally drink now. In that time, it sold more than 220 million copies, which puts it among the 3 best-selling games ever made. A whole generation didn't just play the game before this one, they grew up inside it. So the sequel isn't launching into an empty room. It's launching into 13 years of people imagining what it could be. Every leak, every delay, every 10-second clip got picked apart frame by frame. Each time Rockstar pushed the release back, and it happened more than once, the delay ran as actual news. The second trailer alone beat the biggest movie trailers on the planet, pulling more views in a day than the trailers for the year's biggest blockbuster movies. People weren't waiting for a game, they were waiting for an event. That's the trap. When 100 million people have spent years building the perfect version of a game in their heads, no real game can beat the one they already imagined. Rockstar isn't really competing with other studios anymore. It's competing with your imagination, and that fight starts the second you press start, and the bar only keeps climbing. Rockstar calls this the biggest and most immersive game it's ever built, and the trailers back up the ambition. They showed beaches packed with people, alligators wandering through quiet neighborhoods, and Vice City lit up in neon after dark. Crowds that move and react like a real crowd, instead of painted scenery. But a trailer can hide the hard part. Anyone can stage 60 seconds of a world that looks alive. Keeping it alive for the 300 hours a player actually spends there is a different job entirely. Does the city still feel real at 4 in the morning when the streets empty out? Do the people on the sidewalk remember you, or reset the moment you turn your back? Does the swamp behave like a swamp, or just sit there looking pretty? This is the part we don't know yet. Almost everything shown so far comes from trailers, and a trailer is a highlight reel by design. The world doesn't have to survive the trailer. It has to survive the 10th hour, when the novelty is gone and all that's left is whether the place feels real enough to keep living in. But the world can be perfect, and it still won't matter if you can't get through the front door. Which brings us to the thing Rockstar has already gotten wrong once before, on a much smaller stage. Go back to 2013. The online mode of the last game launched 2 weeks after the main game, and it fell apart almost immediately. Servers buckled under the crowd. Players got stuck on loading screens, dropped in the middle of missions, and some watched their characters and their progress disappear. Rockstar spent the first weeks patching it out in the open, and eventually handed every player a pile of in-game cash, 500,000 of it, just to say sorry. The same reviewers who'd praised the main game turned brutal on the online side. Now scale that up. The launch coming this November is expected to be the biggest this medium has ever seen. The company behind it is forecasting around $8 billion in a single year, and the game is expected to sell somewhere near 40 million copies in that first year alone. Picture that many people trying to download, sign in, and start playing in the same handful of hours, all over the world. There's one thing nobody can answer yet. We don't actually know how much of this game is online at launch, or whether the big online world even arrives on day one. Rockstar has mostly talked about the single-player side so far, but the last time the studio faced a crush of players anywhere near this size, its servers buckled, and that is the precedent that should make everyone a little nervous. Getting the launch right is the first promise the game makes to 100 million people, and it's the one Rockstar has already broken once, back when far fewer people were watching. Quick thing before the last piece. Between now and launch, there's going to be news on this game almost every single week, and I'm covering all of it. So if you don't want to miss anything on the road to release, take a second and subscribe. Okay, back to it. Say Rockstar clears both of those. The world holds up, the servers hold up. There's still one problem left, and it's the one that decides whether people are still playing this thing in 10 years. The last game didn't make most of its money back in 2013. It made it every year since, through its online mode, where players buy in-game cash with real money and the updates never really stop. New heists, new businesses, new cars, year after year. That is the reason a game more than a decade old still sold around 20 million copies in the last year alone. And this is the part that makes the sequel's job even harder. That money machine didn't exist on day one. It took years to build. The online mode of the last game only became its own standalone product years into its life, picked up a paid membership on top of that, and kept dropping updates almost every single week. Most of those updates were free, which is a big reason people stuck around for so long. The players who've been there the whole time now expect all of it, and the new players showing up for the sequel will expect it too. Except they'll want it right away on a mode that has been live for one day instead of more than 10 years. That's a strange kind of pressure. The sequel has to walk in on day one and feel as deep as a mode people have spent more than a decade building their lives around. Come up short, and the hardcore crowd gets bored and drifts back to the game they already know. Nobody has ever had to relaunch an online world this big from a blank slate, with this many people watching. Even for Rockstar, that is uncharted territory, and there's a question underneath all of it that still has no answer. Will this be a brand new online world, or a continuation of the old one? A lot of players have spent years and real money on cars, apartments, and businesses in the last game. If none of that carries over, some of them are going to feel like they're starting from zero, and that reset comes with its own risk. Nobody has said yet how any of this will actually work. The single-player story is what sells the sequel on launch day, but the online side is what has to keep it alive for the next 10 years. And that balance is really hard to get right. Push the paid shortcuts too aggressively, and players feel squeezed and walk away. Hold back too much, and the thing stops paying for itself. We still barely know what the online side of the new game will even be. And that uncertainty is the whole risk, because that is where the next 10 years of money will come from. So, put it all together. A world you believe in, a launch that holds, an online mode that lasts. Every one of those is hard, and Rockstar has the money and the people to pull them off. But notice that not one of them is the thing people are actually waiting for. What they're waiting for is a feeling they've been promising themselves for 13 years. And no budget on Earth can guarantee that a real game delivers the one that's been growing in your head since you were a teenager. That's the bar nobody at Rockstar can fully control. The game can do everything right and still feel smaller than the version you built in your imagination. We find out this November when the most anticipated game ever made finally stops being a promise and has to become a game. And when you do finally land in Leonida, you'll want to know who already runs it. We broke down the gangs fighting for control of the state in the video on screen right now, so give that a watch before you go.